Saag Aloo is one of those dishes that I get asked about all the time. It's not necessarily a traditional Indian dish, but it is one of those restaurant favourites. So I'm just going to show you how to put that together with some lovely, fresh, delicious ingredients. What we're going to do is we're going to use mustard oil. I like to use mustard oil with lots of vegetable dishes because it gives the dish a little bit more of a bite. So I'm just going to pour that into my wok or karai. So this is a traditional Indian cooking vessel that we use for all kinds of dishes, from deep fried samosas right through to lots of vegetable dishes. I'm going to bring my mustard oil up to smoking point, and then I'm going to let it cool down, and I'm going to start to add my spices into that. And the reason that you do that is just to get rid of any impurities. There's lots of controversy about using mustard oil, but I've used it pretty much all my life and I'm okay so far. So we're just going to have a look at that and then start to add our spices in. The mustard oil is cooled down, so it's just at the right cooking temperature. Into that I'm going to add some mustard seeds. Mustard seeds are going to add a little bit of a bite to my dish, but also they're going to make it look lovely because there's nice little black spots that sort of run through the dish. So I'm adding about 1.5 teaspoons of those. I'm also going to put in some cumin seeds. If ever you cook a vegetable dish, cumin seeds and mustard seeds make an amazing combination, so always start with those. So now I've got those seeds in there, I'm going to add a little bit of asafoetida, probably about 1/4 teaspoon, and that's just to give it a little bit of an essence of onion because I'm not going to add any onion into this dish. So that sizzles straight away. I'm going to give that a little stir, and as soon as I can smell it, which is now, I can get those lovely fragrances coming through, I'm going to pop in some sliced garlic, probably about 2 or 3 cloves. And I'm going to put in some freshly sliced ginger as well, probably about 3 or 4 centimetres worth. I'm going to give that a stir. It smells really lovely. It smells really fresh. What I don't want to do is let this burn, so I need to be fairly quick, and I'm going to chop up some fresh tomatoes to go in there. With Indian cooking, you tend not to skin the tomatoes or take the seeds out or do anything like that. We're not very good at wasting food, so we like to put the whole lot in. I like to use fresh tomatoes for this because, again, it's a vegetable dish, and, you know, if you've got them, why not use them? But by all means, feel free to use some tinned tomatoes if you don't have any fresh. Nice and finely chopped. That's looking good. I'm just going to give that a little stir because I don't want it to colour too much. There we go. Once we pop these into the pan, what we're looking for is that we want all the tomatoes to create almost like a pulp, just cook down into a lovely thick pulp to make a masala sauce. So I'm just going to pop those in. So what I'm looking for is for all the tomatoes to break down and make almost like a really thick masala paste. People always worry using fresh tomatoes. I think this bit's going to take ages, but actually it takes a few minutes and you'll get a really lovely, rich, fresh tasting tomato masala base. So whilst that is cooking down and we're getting this lovely tomato paste, I'm just going to chop up a few chilies. I like this fairly spicy, so I'm going to use 2 lovely green chilies. Indian cooking, you tend to use these chilies, which are called either finger chilies or rocket chilies. Chop them up really nice and finely. I don't go into taking the seeds out or anything like that. If you don't want it as spicy, then just use half a chili or use, you know, less than a whole one. But I don't like the idea of taking ages to take the seeds out and all of that kind of stuff. Life's too short. Right, nice and chopped up. So as that's cooking down, I'm going to add into that some salt for seasoning, so probably about 1 teaspoon. And I'm going to pop my chilies in as well. Yum. Right, just give that a stir. And you'll see it's starting to break down now. We're nearly there, it's almost broken down, but we just need to cook it down a little bit more. Probably takes about 3 or 4 minutes from now. But you can see that the sauce is starting to thicken up, and all the skin and everything and the pulp is all breaking down to make that lovely sauce. So whilst that's doing that, I've chopped up some potatoes that we're going to be using, just into sort of 3-4 centimetre dices. I tend to use quite a waxy potato for this because I want potatoes to hold their shape. There are lots of different ways that people make saag aloo, and some people like to make a purée with their spinach and then add their potatoes into that. I prefer to keep it fairly fresh, so I like to cook my potatoes and then use my fresh spinach all chopped up and add that in right at the end. It stays that lovely beautiful green colour, but it feels like a really fresh summery dish as well. So this essentially is your masala base, or your base sauce. Quite often when I was little, this is the bit that my mum would throw on a piece of toast for us and give to us as a little snack, and it is delicious. So you just use your spoon to just break up any chunky bits that are still there, and if you want to, you can add a little splash of water just to help it get going a little bit more. There we go. So once the masala is nice and pulpy and thick like this, then we can add our potatoes in. I've chopped up my potatoes to that sort of size, about 3 centimetre cubed, and I've used about 3 potatoes. I like to go for a nice firm sort of waxy potato for this dish. All I'm going to do is pop that in, and I'm going to coat it with the sauce just to get all of those lovely spices and lovely flavours running through the potatoes. I'm also going to just turn it up just slightly just to coat all of the potatoes with. There we go. You can see the little specks of mustard seeds in there. It just adds not just flavour but a little bit of texture as well, and it looks pretty funky too. So once we've got to this stage, I'm going to turn my heat down, and I'm just going to pop a lid on the pan because I want the potatoes to almost steam and soak up all of those lovely flavours. So I just push everything into the middle, and I'm just going to pop a lid on that. So it's been cooking for about 6 or 7 minutes. I'm just going to have a look at it. I can see it's bubbling away. It's looking good, but I can see that the potatoes are still quite solid. So what I might do is add a little splash of water just to help it start to steam through and give it a little stir. See, it's not stuck to the bottom of the pan, so we're still doing good. It's smelling really amazing, and you can see that all of that masala sauce has coated those potatoes beautifully. So I'm just going to turn it up slightly, and I'm going to pop the lid back on the pan, and I'm going to let that just simmer through. Whilst that's cooking away, I'm going to just move on to my spinach. What I tend to do is I quite like to use whatever is available. So if you've got baby spinach from the supermarket, then by all means use that. I found some lovely fresh spinach today, so I'm quite pleased. I'm going to chop that up. It's already been washed. I'm just going to chop it up into little ribbons, and we're going to add that in once the potatoes are cooking. There we go. You don't have to be too particular about how you do this. It will all cook down. When you get to the bottom and you've got the big thick stems, you can either chop them up much more finely, which I'm going to do because I quite like a little bit of texture in there, or you can just throw those bits away and just use the leaves. I'm not going to go right down to the bottom because it can be a little bit hard, but there we go. So there we go, there's our spinach. It's looking really lovely, it's looking really green. And that's going to add a real beautiful colour, but also that lovely spinachy flavour. You can almost smell the iron coming off it, but it's lovely. So I'm going to give the potatoes another few minutes. Once they've softened, I'm going to pop in my spinach and just stir that through and finish the dish off. The potatoes have been cooking for, in total, probably about 15-20 minutes now. I'm just going to check them again. They're looking much softer now, and as you turn them you can see that they're starting to cook through. The way that I test that potatoes are cooked, I just use my spatula and I just literally push through, and if it breaks through like that and I can tell the texture's nice and soft, they're pretty much ready. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add my spinach to that. All I want to do is just pop the spinach in. I want to coat it with that lovely sauce. and just get the spinach running through those potatoes. I'm going to turn it up a little bit as well, so we're almost stir frying it. You will get a little bit of liquid coming out of the spinach, and we want to leave it on a high heat so that we sort of almost reduce that down. We don't want this to be a saucy dish. We want it to be a nice sort of dry, masala fragrant dish. What I'm not going to do is put the lid back on the pan. It's really important because I want my spinach to stay beautiful, green, vibrant in colour. If you put the lid on the pan, it's going to go almost like a grey colour, and that's not really what we're looking for. There we go. We just want the spinach to cook through. We want it to wilt and just take on the flavour of the dish. When you're stirring this through, just make sure you're folding rather than stirring, because what you don't want to end up with is a bowl of mashed potato and spinach. You want the potatoes to stay nice and chunky, and you want the spinach to just sort of embrace those lovely potatoes. There we go. That's looking really good now. Getting a bit excited, so I'm just going to have a taste. Oh, if I can get hold of it, I will. Oh, that's lovely. So the potato's really nice and soft. Well, it's got a bit of a kick to it, but the spinach is still nice and crunchy, and it tastes fresh. It's got a beautiful lingering, almost mustard seed that's running through it. It's beautiful. It's lovely. I'm going to turn that off because I don't want to overdo the spinach. And me being a good Punjabi girl, I have to finish every single dish off with a lovely big teaspoon of garam masala. All that's going to do is it's going to bring that dish together. It's going to bring all the fragrance, all the aromatics that we've put into this all together. And that's it. And you just get that waft of aromatics. And there you go. Saag Aloo, really fresh, really tender, and really beautifully done. I hope you enjoy it.